for Tuesday, November 20th. We'll call this meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation by Councilman Mitchell.
Good evening. Please stand. Place the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Move the agenda.
Thank you, sir. Have a motion on the minutes?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. We have no special presentations this evening, so we're going to move right into ordinances final read. Madam Clerk, 5A, please. Excuse me, Madam Clerk, I'm sorry. I missed a light. Councilwoman Burrs, I'm sorry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my pleasure to introduce 4 guests tonight to council who are very special. So if Aiden Simmons and Sean Simmons and Amelia Burrs and Lily Burrs would please stand.
We're still guests?
Well, 2 of them are. And do not embarrass me in front of them. So Aiden and Sean are from Atlanta. Well, Lily, you are too. She's a freshman at Georgia Tech. And Amelia and her family are from Norfolk. And everybody's coming in for Thanksgiving. And that boys, particularly, the 2 boys interned for the city all summer, this past summer. And hopefully they'll be back again. Maybe we can garner the girls, I don't know. But at any rate, I wanted you to meet them and welcome. They're my grandkids.
Welcome. Thank you, Councilwoman. All right, Madam Clerk, let's move in. 5A, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 10, Section 1033, so as to adopt the 2012 edition of the International Energy Conservation Code as amended as the official energy code of the City of Chattanooga.
All right, what's the pleasure of the council?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. B, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 14, so as to adopt the 2017 edition of the National Electrical Code and certain appendices as revised and amended as the official electrical code of the City of Chattanooga.
Councilman Ledford. All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. All right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, C, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone part of property located at 6109 Wilder Lane, more particularly described herein from R2 residential zone to C2 convenience commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Anderson.
Move for approval.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. D, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone part of property located at 786 Winding Hills Lane, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone to R2 residential zone, subject to certain conditions.
All right, Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is your district. I will move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. E, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located in the 7600 block of Davidson Road, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone to RZ1 zero lot line residential zone, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Ledford. Second. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. F, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone part of property located at 315 Walnut Street, more particularly described herein from DRM4 downtown residential multi-unit 4 stories maximum height zone to DCX6 downtown commercial mixed use 6 stories maximum height zone.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. G, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1405 Fagan Street, more particularly described herein from R3 Residential Zone and C2 Convenience Commercial Zone to UGC Urban General Commercial Zone.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. H, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone part of property located at 2208 Glass Street, more particularly described herein from C2 Convenience Commercial Zone to UGC Urban General Commercial Zone.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, let's move into ordinances on first read with 6A, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 584 Boy Scout Road, more particularly described herein from R1 Residential Zone to RTZ Residential Townhouse Zero Lot Line Zone, subject to certain conditions.
All right, is the applicant present? Yes. Is there any opposition present? See none. Councilman Henderson?
Hey, John?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Currently, we have 4 conditions. One deals with the number of buildings and units in each building.
Yes.
We have one referring to no grading above a 740 topo, the landscaping, and then a hub at the southern end of the property. That's,
Yes.
Is that all the current conditions on
Yes.
this property, right? All right. So I guess, so for right now, I'm going to move for approval, and then I want to amend the conditions. So I move for approval. Now I'd like to offer, an amendment to the conditions, providing that it's acceptable to the applicant. One is that we amend condition 2 to read the, from 740 topo line to the 750 topo line. Remove condition 3 that refers to the type B landscape buffer, remove it completely.
Yes.
And then I want to add a condition that would read, geotechnical report shall be provided to the Land Development Office for review prior to issuance of land disturbance permit. And then the others would stay in place. That's in the form of motion.
All right. I've got a motion and a second for the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for the amended versions that we just approved.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second for amended version. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councilman.
Did you get that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, let's move on to B, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 6246 Dayton Boulevard, more particularly described herein from C2 Convenience Commercial Zone and R4 Special Zone to M1 Manufacturing Zone, subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present?
Yes, sir.
Yes. All right. Well, at this time, I'll ask the applicant to come forward. You will have 7 minutes. Then opposition, you will also be afforded 9 minutes at the mic, and then the applicant will also be afforded 2 additional minutes for rebuttal. Hey, John, let me ask you to jump up first and give us a quick review of this, if you don't mind.
Sure. I'm just going to give you a quick overview, or do you want me to go through all the?
Please, just
Okay.
an overview.
Just an overview. Okay, this is a request to rezone a property located at 6020 46 Dayton Boulevard to rezone an existing building and property from C2 and R4 to M1. And the reason they're requesting the M1 zone is that to do a larger scale contractor's office with outdoor storage, you cannot do that in a C2 zone. It would require either an M2 or an M1 zone. Essentially, that's the request to accommodate that proposed use. Staff, in reviewing the request, consulted the Hickson North River Community Plan, which recommended a medium business mix, which is really more your typical commercial. It wouldn't include a warehousing contractor type development. Staff, after reviewing the request, based on the plan, recommended to deny. At Planning Commission, there was opposition, mainly from the residents who live behind the structure. After hearing the staff report and comments from the applicant and the public, Planning Commission did recommend approve M1 with some conditions. And so it comes to you with a recommendation to deny from staff and approve with conditions from Planning Commission.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Price?
Thank you. Mike Price, MAP Engineers. The request is by Lawson Electric to relocate their facilities to this site here on Dayton Boulevard. There are a number of conditions that we've agreed to, but mainly let me just concentrate, if I might, as it relates to the buffering to the residents of the rear. So we have a 50-foot undisturbed buffer, and there is no activities that essentially would take place within 70 feet of these properties. If you're familiar with the landscape ordinance, that normally requires a 30-foot landscape buffer. So we're essentially doubling that and then some. And then the elevations are such that with the grade change that takes place where this facility sits below, those residents up above, and the fact that we're also going to be planting a row of trees in addition to all the rest of the buffering that takes place between the residents, we think that even though it is an M zone, and we had a neighborhood meeting, which Councilman Henderson was at, I think that essentially at the end of the day, most people were okay with the use. Not everyone, but majority, vast majority. But the issue that they really saw was they didn't like the M1 zone. They would prefer it remain in a C2 zone. But the zone is what the zone is, and we can't make that work as a special use permit. So therefore, that only leaves us the option to move forward if this request is approved under an M zoning. If the council is so willing, we could postpone this for 30 days. But if not, then I understand the request then would be to hopefully see that the conditions and the buffering of what we have offered and as far as conditions would more than adequately address the concerns of the neighbors. So if there's any questions, be happy to answer those.
All right, let me see. Hold on, change. Okay, there we go. Councilman Henderson.
Mr. Price, what would be the hope or the purpose of the 30-day deferral?
The hope would be that there may be some additional conditions that could be reached with the neighborhood under an M zoning.
Under an M zoning?
If there's no appetite for the council to move forward under a special use permit, then that would be our only option. So, yes, sir.
Okay.
Councilwoman Burrs.
So I thought I heard last week that nothing but an M1 would do. Is that still correct?
I think with some research that John has done, I think that an M2 might be suitable as I understand it. So M1 or M2, I believe.
But it's an M, right?
It is an M, yes,
All
ma'am.
right. And John, one of the things the council talked about is that I believe one of the problems had to do with the number of employees?
Yes, that's correct.
All right.
And the storage, outdoor storage as well.
And the storage. And let me ask one other question. And if you would address the people that were against it, it was because of the zoning change or the use. I haven't heard that addressed.
From staff's perspective?
Well, there was opposition, was it because
Yeah,
of?
it was primarily the use, I'm sorry, maybe me correct myself. It was mainly to do with the zone in terms of the precedent sets for M1. There was also some questions about noise and operating hours, but I think a lot of that was addressed at a community meeting. But I would say a lot of it had to do with the precedent for a manufacturing type zone in that area.
Okay, and none of that can be corrected in 30 days? I mean, it is what it is,
Yeah.
correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, I see no further lights, so opposition, if you'd please come up to the mic and give us your name, we'd love to hear what you have to say. You'll have 9 minutes if you would like.
First, thank you for letting us meet with you folks tonight. My name is Chris Wagg, W-A-G-G, first name Chris, and I'm one of the 3 properties that border the proposed site. I would disagree completely with the engineer. At the meeting we had, at the community meeting, the vast majority of us were not in agreement with this. There were some folks at the meeting that felt this might be a better neighbor than somebody else going in there, but most of us were not in agreement, in particular with the M zoning. What was mentioned by one of the neighbors that is not here was that's going to open a Pandora's box. Now we're going to have other properties that can use this property as a precedent. So if they want to come in and make an M zone for some other business, they can look and say, Lawson Electric is an M1, why can't we be an M1 too? There's a large carpenters union right at the foot of our hill, which sees minimal traffic. I believe it's a C property as well, but I could see a company going in there and saying, ideal location right off 153, right on Dayton Boulevard. Let's make this an M. There's a vacant property just down the road, and there are, as far as I'm aware, no M zones anywhere near us in that line. A couple of things. Most of the neighborhood are senior citizens, many of us with grandchildren. Those trees might be nice if any of us would live long enough to see them grow up big enough to block the proposed site. We have issues in that things have changed at every meeting. At the first meeting with county, we were told outside the meeting by a gentleman by the name of Ryan who works with Lawson's that their plan was to go to a second shift. At the community meeting, we were told, well, that probably would never happen. So we're saying, is there, isn't there? How late will these trucks be coming in? How late will we be hearing forklifts backing up? So basically, we're looking at a pretty quiet neighborhood. 3 of the 27 houses have children. None of the others have children, but many of us have grandchildren. Noise was an issue that many of us are concerned about, especially the 4 of us that are here back directly onto this property. My wife's a cancer patient. She's had 3 surgeries in the last 6 months. Every time she was told to lay low, rest. Where does she rest? On our deck or in our porch? What's just down the hill from that? The proposed M1 property. So when the forklift issue was brought up, we were told, oh, our forklifts don't make that beeping noise when they back up. And in the note I sent to you, Mr. Smith, initially to Mr. Carpenter, I questioned whether that's an OSHA violation or not. I don't know the rules. If it is a violation, then it'll eventually be enforced and we'll have those. I think the number of trucks that were mentioned were 3 or 4 vehicles 3 times a day. So, but with the new property, there might be a little more than that. I guess there's lots of questions we have about how this property, how busy this property is going to be, and is that going to change the very nature of a quiet neighborhood that's 10 minutes from everything? We feel like we live in a, not a paradise, but a little bit of country that's 5 minutes from everything around us. And I think the biggest issue was the Pandora's box, so, and other industries wanting to come in and set up in the neighborhood. Another thing that was mentioned by Mr. Patton, who works as an appraiser, was the value of our properties will go down. The engineer for Lawson's at the community meeting said, oh, minimally so, if at all. Well, who do I believe, an engineer or my neighbor who's the appraiser and does it every day, all day as his vocation? So that was another issue, although I don't think that's an issue for this body to have to address. And that basically is it, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Just a moment. Would anybody else like to comment? There's still a few minutes left. You good? All right. Mr. Wag, thank you very much for speaking. Mr. Patton, I've heard from both of you. I've heard from a number of your neighbors, and I will reiterate right now what I reiterated to you at that time. There is absolutely no way I will approve an M1 or an M2 zone for this parcel of property, and I want to make that very clear. Thank you. Mr. Price, would you like your 2 minutes?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I would be happy to entertain a motion. Going once, going twice, failed for lack of a motion. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, C, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone part of property located at 6750 Shallowford Road, more particularly described herein from R4 Special Zone to C5 Neighborhood Commercial Zone, subject to certain conditions.
All right, what's the pleasure of the council? Oh, sorry. I guess I should jump right to that. Is the applicant here? I didn't think I saw the applicant, but it's always good to ask. See ya. Is the applicant here? Okay, I didn't see his hand. It was like I was looking around for the applicant. Sorry, opposition present. Any? Seeing none. Councilwoman, would you like the presentation? Oh, hit it again. Hit it again. Hit your light. There we go.
Yeah?
All right.
All right. I don't need a full presentation. Mr. Sanders, would you come forward? Since you're the applicant, you'd probably go first anyway, and I want to tell you that it's been a pleasure working with you. You're building a quality project, and it's been a pleasure working with you. That's the way things should happen, and I want to thank you very, very much. What I'd like to do is put in the record the conditions that have been agreed to. So, John, if you would do that, and thank you, sir, very much. After he reads the conditions and you agree with them, which I know you already do, then I'm going to make a motion to approve. So what are those conditions?
There's just two conditions. One is to limit building height to 2.5 stories or 35 feet. And the other one is to provide a 30-foot deep landscaped street yard fronting Shallowford Road. And in addition to the Chattanooga street yard planning requirements, provide a minimum 6-foot wide landscaping strip planted with a continuous row of shrubs bordered by a 3-foot high wood wall with masonry stucco piers that is located on the street-facing edge of the parking stalls. All required shrubs must be of a species that, under typical conditions, are expected to reach a minimum height and spread of 3 feet within 3 years of planting. All shrubs must be a minimum of 2 feet tall when planted.
All right, amend the wood fence, the fence, read the fence, there's one word.
Sure. By a minimum of...
The word painted is going in there.
Okay, add painted, 3-foot high painted wood wall.
Yeah. Now, is that what you want to do, or you want to leave it natural? I like natural, but it's up to you.
That's fine, except, as you probably know, we're thinking treated wood, and it can be painted, but it takes about 6 months for that to accept paint properly.
Why don't we do it
Minor
this
thing.
way? Why don't you do the treated wood, your choice, whether you want to paint it? Because treated can be just as lovely.
I can't say right this moment, but
You don't have to. You're only held to a treated wood.
Yes,
And if you want to paint it later on, that's up to you.
good.
All right. And John, the other thing is,
Yes, ma'am.
for the record, C5 only allows offices and restaurants, non-drive-through restaurants.
That's correct.
All right. That's not for you. I trust you're doing that. It's for people that had those questions.
I'll certainly follow the ordinance.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you very much. With that, I move for approval.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Well done. All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk. Yep, move on to resolutions, please.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 18 STVR 00103 for property located at 501 Tucker Street.
All right, is the applicant present?
The applicant is not present, but I am here.
Okay. Representation for the applicant is present. Is there any opposition present? There is opposition. All right, same thing as before. We'd like to hear from the applicant. You will have 9 or 7 minutes, and then we will hear from opposition.
Thank you, members of the council. My name is Jessica Susong. I actually am just newly representing Mr. Ralston. So the information that was passed on to me is very new, so be patient with me in understanding that I don't have all the accounts or incidences that have occurred. But what has been presented to me is that there has been some noise ordinances or some noise violations that have been brought to Mr. Ralston's attention by the neighborhood association. These accounts were never actually brought to him. There's about 3 that were by a specific individual, which he personally addressed. But all these other ordinances that were brought to light prior to this hearing, about 5 minutes prior to this hearing via email that I received, have not been brought to light. Police were never notified. And looking at ordinance 13194, item J under section 11472, the minimum standards for the short-term vacation rental says all occupants shall be and shall abide by applicable noise restrictions by the city of Chattanooga. That being said, nothing was done to, I guess, to prevent this or to keep this from happening. Police weren't called, no one was notified. And in that case, Mr. Ralston was not aware of this. We would like to move forward with this. It would be great for the city of Chattanooga. I actually manage 23 properties in Nashville, in the Gulch itself. It's very lucrative. I mean, people want to stay in Airbnb. It's trendy, it's new, but it's also something that can accommodate church groups, large families, wedding parties. There is a need for it, and so that's my stance on it.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Opposition?
Hello, my name is Chris Hammett. We are handing you all a document here of a presentation we had made with some photos and examples of some of the complaints that neighbors have had. Just some fast facts going around. This Airbnb or short-term vacation rental had been operating for over a year before the application was put in. I live directly across the street, and I was not even aware that it was a short-term vacation rental until I went over to introduce myself to the new neighbors that were there, and they told me that, oh, no, we're just here for the weekend. Typically, there are at least 3 to 5 vehicles associated when the home is occupied. It's occupied most Thursdays through Mondays during the late spring, summer, and early fall. Large groups of 10 plus are common. Parties are fairly common, 1 to 3 per month. In October, the neighborhood association had enough attendees personally affected by the home to warrant a vote on a neighborhood association stance on the application. A recommendation of STVR license should not be awarded was unanimously passed. This application was put off for 2 weeks. At the last meeting we were here, our neighborhood association president was with us, but is now traveling for the holidays. We brought our vice president along as well. So we have the excessive number of vehicles limiting the on-street parking, loud parties that result in even more limited parking, excessive trash, late arrivals, late parties, noise disrupting sleep, and there are many children in the homes around us. Excessive drinking, drunken behavior spilling out into the street. Some examples is a couple verbally fighting in the street, loud singing in the street at 4 a.m., and rooftop hanging out. Revolving doors of strangers in the area, many of whom seem to be disrespectful of the neighborhood, and concerns over unattended swimming pool. Moving forward from there, we have some photo examples. This is from August of this year. There's a church bus, a passenger van, and several cars full of people staying in the home. Estimated people were anywhere between 30 to 35. Too many large parties. Example, there's another party. This one had a catering van parked in the middle of the street for almost half an hour unloading. And right next to that is, that's a different party. You can tell that the house is under construction in this one, the house next door, and that is just piled up trash in the street. After that, there's unattended children playing on the roof. The other one is probably 15 young women sitting around on the roof. After that, we have another passenger van showing up. This was about 1 in the morning. Bear in mind that there was parking directly in front of the house. They parked in front of my house and were slamming doors for about 20 minutes while they unloaded luggage and people. On the following page, you can see from their VRBO page, they have it listed as parties and events are allowed. And the next page, if I had it in a PowerPoint, would be a link to a YouTube video. We caught the last probably 4 or 5 people coming out. This was with the church group. There were probably 20 people out front making an arch with their hands for the remaining 15 to 20 people to run through while they chanted and cheered. So it's been pretty disruptive. That's all I have. I can let our Vice President of the Neighborhood Association speak.
Just a moment. Sorry, give me your name again. I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
I apologize. My name is Chris Hammett, Hammitt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cassandra Nice. I'm here representing the Lower North Shore Neighborhood Association. And like Chris expressed in our October meeting, there was a motion which was seconded to submit a letter expressing our concerns. I have that letter present. Have you all received a copy? I had a chance to read it. Would you like me to read it?
You are welcome to read it if you would like. You've got about 4 minutes left.
Okay. The concerns addressed in the letter are very similar to those addressed by Chris. And it was written by the president of our neighborhood association. I'm writing this letter on behalf of the Lower North Shore Neighborhood Association and its member neighbors concerning the home at 501 Tucker Street that has formally applied for a short-term rental license. This letter is to express our conclusion this license should be denied. As neighbors and property owners in a desirable neighborhood with close proximity to the amenities of downtown Chattanooga, we understand that the desire to utilize homes in the neighborhood as short-term rentals is appealing and prevalent. While our neighborhood association is not by any means anti-short-term rental, we are against rentals that do not follow proper protocols and or those that continually disturb our neighborhood. Neighbors surrounding this home have thoroughly documented loud parties with inappropriately large groups of people that are literally bussed into the neighborhood. Catering vans blocking the street, numerous cars occupying limited street parking. The home was advertising parties and events welcome, although we know that is no longer included on the listing. Neighbors have documented loud behaviors until as late as 3 a.m., myself being one of those. It is apparent that the short-term rental operator is not a responsible party, cares little about the surrounding neighbors, and does not have to deal with the real-time and frequent misbehaviors or his or her short-term rental occupants. At our October 8th neighborhood meeting, this issue is brought up and unanimously voted on by neighbors to send this letter, making it clear that we do not believe this license should be granted as the absentee owner has no interest in being a good neighbor. As our neighborhood continues to grow and the number of short-term rentals in the area is sure to follow, we ask for the city of Chattanooga to protect our neighborhood from this type of behavior. Moreover, we need you to help us set the precedent that operators of short-term rentals in North Shore will be expected to follow the rules set forth by the city of Chattanooga and to be a good neighbor. And it's signed sincerely, Amy Donahue, the president of the Lower North Shore Neighborhood Association. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further comments from opposition?
I will mention one more thing. I know at the last meeting, it was deferred 2 weeks for the owner to reach an agreement with us. The first contact we received was an email at 9 a.m. this morning, not giving us enough time to address, and we had an open meeting last Monday.
And I would like to add one more thing. I am Elizabeth Hammett, and I am Chris Hammett's wife. And I would just like to mention that I was, in fact, in contact with the Ralstons several times about the home. And then it just reached a point where there was no longer a response. But I just want to let you guys know that we were, in fact, in touch with them. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, you're welcome to 2 minutes to rebut, or are you good? Good? All right. And in that case, we will move on to Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You were put in a very awkward situation, and I apologize for that. We'd like to get folks that come from out of town to be treated a little bit better than you've been treated in this situation. And I'm not speaking about the opposition. I'm speaking about the person you... Right. You know, the one thing when I was investigating this, and this is maybe something we should address as a council, there's a place on the application that says how many parking spaces. And 3 was written down, and I drove by there, and no more than 1 car can get off the street. There are probably places for 2 cars on the street in front of it, and maybe we ought to try to be a little more specific when we're asking maybe off-street parking versus how much parking, because I guess if you want to count the street, you can have a lot of parking places that don't, unless someone goes by and looks at it, you don't get a real true definition. I think it's a great location for a short-term vacation rental. I think the type of client, though, that was, let's say, rented to there, was huge crowds, and I've seen pictures, and I've gone by there when it was happening, and it probably, I mean, the houses on this particular street are probably, what, 10 feet apart? So it's a jam-packed neighborhood. So, you know, I could see something at some point where small family, a couple, something like that could possibly work there. Not acrobats who are sitting on the roof and singing and things like that. So with that, I am going to move to deny.
Thank you, sir. I see no further comment, so we have a motion to deny and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Madam Clerk, let's move on to B, please.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 18 STVR 00124 for property located at 4217 Michigan Avenue.
Is the applicant present? Anywhere? Is there any opposition present? There's opposition. Let me ask one more time. Is the applicant present? Councilman Oglesby, how would you like to deal with it since we don't have an applicant to make a case?
Mr. Chair,
Hang on, I got you. Go ahead.
Okay, seeing that the applicant is not here, I move to deny.
Very well, sir. I've got a motion and a second to deny. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Madam Clerk, let's move on to C, please.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 18 SDVR 00119 for property located at 858 O'Grady Drive.
All right, is the applicant present? Yes. Is there any opposition present? Yes. All right. Councilman? All right. Do we need, you want to hear from John or you want to hear from the applicant? Okay. If the applicant would come forward, and you will have your 7 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Connie Carrick.
I'm James Rogers, her brother.
We would like you all to consider I'm so sorry about the people that had to put up.
Speak a little bit better
I said,
into the
I'm
mic. There
so
you go.
sorry about the applicants or the people that they had to put up with. We've had nothing but pleasure from the people that we have hosted. They've been wonderful guests. We have set guidelines and rules. We have a quiet time at 10 o'clock. You know, people come in and they leave. We never even know they're there. Funny thing is, most of the applicants we know whenever I get to talking to them. So it's kind of a sad situation that they had to put up with that. But we have a neighborhood that is older, and the home, my brother is on one side and I'm on the other. And it is about 100 feet from my front door. So if someone acts like these other people do, we're kind of like right there. We don't put up with that behavior. We are concerned about our neighbors. We have grown up there. We've been there all of our lives. And Airbnb is the only place that we host through because they are vetted people who apply. If we have someone who we don't think is suitable for our neighborhood, we do not have to approve them. And I am very picky about who I want in our neighborhood. We've had different people from different areas. Our first group of people was the group that came from Chattanooga State to teach a drama club over at Chattanooga State. We had Richard, who starred on the first Broadway production of Cats, and we had 2 New York University professors. We've had the last group that was in, we had the girls, I didn't realize they did the Olympic boxing trials here, but 2 of our boxers were there, and 1 girl actually made it, so we were really thrilled about that. I'm so sorry about people who've had bad experiences with short-term vacation rentals. We use them when we travel. We love them. We absolutely love them. I feel like there's no danger. There's no, we have no qualms about the people who come. If we do, we are there and we can make them leave. I don't know what else to say. I feel bad after coming up after this girl, after these poor people.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say, but we love it. I mean, it's absolutely a wonderful experience. You know, the people that you come to meet and to know, they're very special. You know, I don't know how to address this, Jimmy, if you'd like to say anything.
The only thing I'd like to say is just that, every concern that anyone would have, we have it, and we live right beside it. I mean, this property that we're trying to get approved is sitting on approximately about an acre of property, and then we have an acre beside it. So there's about 3 acres there altogether. The property is kind of, remotely located in the community where it is away from all the neighbor's house, away from where that they wouldn't have to contend with any noise if there was any. But we haven't had any complaints from anybody. We tried to talk to everyone that is in the immediate area. We did have a neighbor that moved in after we had started and the Airbnb arrangement. And so we may not have gotten to talk to the new neighbor, and I don't know who's opposed the idea of us doing the Airbnb, but we can assure you or them that we are there and we have every concern that they would have.
All right, thank you. Opposition?
Thank you for letting us address you. My name is Kathleen Nolte, and I live in St. Elmo. We couldn't let an opportunity go by to speak to council since we came prepared this evening. We're actually not opposed to this one now that we've heard that the occupants live in the home. The concern actually is that in the application process, the designation between non-owner occupied and occupied, owner occupied, is not very clear. So people who are primary residents, there's no designation for that in the application currently. There are so many residents in St. Elmo that are really concerned about
Ms. Multi, this is purely for opposition on this one case.
Okay.
However, if you have an issue with short-term vacation rental, the application process itself. As long as you are not addressing a very specific case, you are more than welcome to speak this evening at the conclusion of our meeting.
Okay.
About just raising concerns on an application process, not discussing a specific agenda item this evening. But at this time, this is an opportunity for opposition for this one short-term vacation rental to speak. And if you are not in opposition of that, I'd please ask you to
I understand.
yield your time.
I'm sorry, we thought that it was non-owner occupied, so we'll speak at the end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Mello, I just wanted to add one thing, that I think we want to move to a place where we feel like we're kind of in a position where we have to oppose each one individually because the rules are not in a condition that.
Duly noted. And it is your right, but in this case, if you're not opposed, let's save it. Thank you. Councilman Henderson.
I've already made a motion to approve.
I've got a motion and a second. No further lights. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Madam Clerk, D, please.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 18 STVR 00100 for property located at 3828 Pennsylvania Avenue.
All right. Is the applicant present? Yes. Good. Is there opposition present? Councilman Oglesby?
Move to approve.
All right. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Madam Clerk, E, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic and Community Development to accept a First Tennessee Community Development Grant from First Tennessee Bank to be used to increase the supply of affordable rental housing and housing for homeownership available to the city's low to moderate income households by preserving existing affordable housing stock, providing housing and services to special needs populations, and increasing opportunities for citizens to access, retain affordable housing in the amount of $70,000.
All right, I've got Councilman Ledford, followed by Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would heartily move for approval.
All right, Councilman, you good? All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. F, please.
A resolution authorizing payment to the Southeast Tennessee Development District for 2018 dues in the amount of $33,534.80, and the Regional Tourism Initiative in the amount of $5,000 for an amount not to exceed $38,534.80.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay.
I have to abstain.
One abstain. Got that, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
All right, G, please.
A resolution authorizing Collins and Company to pay an on-the-job injury settlement to William McMillan in accordance with the city's injury on duty policy in the amount of $51,191.16.
Councilman Gilbert. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. H, please.
A resolution authorizing the Director of Human Resources to exercise option to renew an annual agreement with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee to provide Medicare retirees with 2 health plan options, 1 Medicare Advantage Health Option 1 for $300 per member per month, and 2 Medicare Advantage Health Option 2 for $372 per member per month.
Councilman Gilbert. All right, I've got a motion and a second, and all those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Next, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the Director of Human Resources to execute a 2-year agreement with 3 one-year renewal options with Onsite RX Inc. for on-site pharmacy services as outlined below for an estimated total amount not to exceed $8 million per year.
Councilman Gilbert. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. K, please.
Which item would you like?
Oh, sorry. Mine was off. Go ahead. Next.
A resolution authorizing the Director of Human Resources to enter into an agreement with Industrial Organizational Solutions, IO Solutions, for the purpose of promotional assessment services for the Chattanooga Fire Department for a term of 1 year with the option to renew for 2 one-year periods for a total contract amount not to exceed $116,685.
All right, Councilman Gilbert. Yeah, Madam Clerk, which one did you just read I,
I
correct?
read J.
Okay. Do you have that as I on yours, Councilman? All right. Our letters are off of the one that you've got with you. Mr. Attorney, will you go down and make sure she's got the right agenda, please? She's got the one they took out. Yes. She's behind the letter.
Okay. I'd like to read these again from the correct agenda.
Okay. Which item are you on now?
Item I.
And that's the resolution authorizing Director of Human Resources?
Yes, the IO Solutions.
Yes.
Okay. A resolution authorizing the Director of Human Resources to enter into an agreement with Industrial Organizational Solutions, IO Solutions, for the purpose of promotional assessment services for the Chattanooga Fire Department for a term of 1 year with the option to renew for 2 one-year periods for a total contract amount not to exceed $116,685.
Okay, we're going to go through this again just to make sure we're on the correct agenda. Councilman Henderson.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now to J.
Yes, a resolution authorizing the Director of Human Resources to execute a 2-year agreement with 3 one-year renewal options with Onsite RS Inc. for on-site pharmacy services as outlined below for an estimated total amount not to exceed $8 million per year.
All right, Councilman Gilbert.
I'd like to defer this for 1 week, please.
Very well, sir. Let's see, that's the 27th. I've got a motion and a second to defer this item until the 27th. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you, sir. All right, Madam Clerk, jump down to K, please.
A resolution authorizing WGC Inc., care of Mike Wall, on behalf of property owner Chuck Pruitt, to use temporarily the right-of-way located along the sidewalk area located at 501 Cherokee Boulevard for the purpose of installing exterior restaurant seating as shown on the maps attached here to and made a part hereof by reference subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Henderson.
Move approval.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. L, please.
A resolution authorizing TSO Chattanooga Development LP, care of A. Boyd Simpson, property owner, to use temporarily an encroachment into the right-of-way located along the rear of 728 Market Street, as shown on the maps attached here to and made a part hereof by reference, subject to certain conditions.
Move to approve.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. M, please.
A resolution authorizing Wood E&I Solutions, Inc., care of Martha Woods, on behalf of property owner Bob Witzel, to use temporarily the right-of-way located along the Madison Street Road frontage of 700 East Main Street for the purpose of installing a fence as shown on the maps attached here to and made a part hereof by reference, subject to certain conditions.
Move to approve.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. N, please.
A resolution authorizing Herbie Dixon, property owner, to use temporarily the right-of-way located along the alley between 1701 and 1703 Lindbergh Avenue and 1700 and 1702 South Hawthorne Street for the purpose of public access as shown on the maps attached here to and made a part hereof by reference subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Byrd. All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. That finishes the items on our agenda and takes us to purchases. We have purchases this evening. Mr. Sammons. Left you to read the big list.
Left the big list for me. Good evening, Council. We have a few purchases for your consideration and approval. The first 6 are from the Department of Public Works. First being for citywide services, a blanket contract renewal for grinding of wood, brush, leaf material services being awarded to Udoag Cleaning and Grinding and an estimated annual value of $360,000. The next being a new blanket contract for Parks Division for irrigation system repair services being awarded to Lawn Pros of Chattanooga at an estimated annual value of $35,000. Another new blanket contract for Parks Division for playground inspection services being awarded to Playground Guardians LLC at an estimated annual value of $45,000. Next, for our Waste Resource Division, 2 new blanket contracts for manhole inspection services being awarded to Professional Services Group LLC and Compliance Enviro Systems LLC at an estimated annual value of $250,000. Also for Waste Resource Division, purchase of GCMS instrument for analysis of volatile organic compounds being awarded to Agilent Technologies in an estimated amount of $97,959.90. Next, for our Fleet Maintenance Division, a blanket contract renewal for vehicle collision repair and services being awarded to Lee Smith Incorporated and Mako Collision Center at an estimated annual value of $300,000. Next, we have for our Information Technology Department, we have 2 items. A new blanket contract for ESRI Small Enterprise Agreement information for the Information Technology Department, and that is being awarded to ESRI at an estimated annual amount of $50,000. Also for Information Technology Department, we have a blanket contract renewal for computer technology equipment and supplies being awarded to CDW Government Incorporated at an estimated annual value of $4,500,000. And lastly, we have for our Youth and Family Development Department, a new blanket contract for floor care in our Head Start centers being awarded to Alternative Source at an estimated annual value amount of $33,000.
All right, thank you, sir. Councilman Gilbert.
Chair, can we separate PO 546737 from the other purchasing
Yes, sir.
items?
Is that the first item that was on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir, as long as the council doesn't oppose separating this item out? Yes, sir, let's deal with that one first. We will separate the purchases, and we're going to deal with just the first item on purchases first.
Move approval. Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Yep. Councilman?
I have a question. Justin, can you come up for a minute, please? The email that you sent us the other day for the 2017 salary and benefits, the $415,000, is that for 6 employees, sir?
Which number did you say? There was for FY17?
This dealing with the wood cycling. You sent an email saying the operational salary of benefits for 2017 was 415,000. The question is, that for 6 employees?
I don't know how many employees that included. I could get that to you, though.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
'Cause I remember you said that you had total of 6, you got rid of 4, and you still have 2, correct?
That's accurate, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good, Councilman?
But point of clarification, Mr. Councilman, we didn't get rid of any employees.
Oh, I'm
Those were
sorry. No, you
positions, but yes,
put
sir.
somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I've got a motion and a second for approval of the single line item in purchases. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Nay. One no, Madam Clerk. All right, what's the pleasure of the council on the remaining items? I've got a motion and a second to approve the remaining items on purchases. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. All right, moving on to other business, and I am going to kick this one off by saying a great big hello and welcome to a former colleague of mine. I know he left, but I'm going to say it anyways. Former Councilman Yusuf Hakim visited us for at least a very brief moment, and I did not want that to go unnoticed. Oh, no, that's what makes this funny. So I'm going to say hello to him while he's gone, and welcome him and congratulate him on his most recent victory to State House, seat 28. And with that, y'all can tell him we forgot him and moved on to other business. Is there anybody else that has any other business they would like to discuss this evening? Other than there are 2 items on here, Mr. Attorney, we'll get to in a moment. I see no light, so please begin.
Okay, we have, this evening, we have 2 other wine and grocery store applications here. One for Max Convenience Stores, Circle K at 234 Browns Ferry Road in District 1. And then the second one is for Max Convenience Stores, Circle K at 8935 Lee Highway in District 6. We'll pass those around to you if we get approval.
Thank you, sir. That takes us to committee reports. Councilwoman Burrs. No report. Councilman Byrd. No report. Councilwoman Coonrod. Councilman Gilbert. No report. Councilman Henderson. No report. Councilman Ledford. Councilman Mitchell.
We will have a Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting next Tuesday after agenda session.
Sounds good. Councilman Oglesby. Thank you, sir. Check that. That takes us to the point in our agenda of recognition of persons wishing to address the council on non-agenda matters. Is there anybody here this evening that would like to address the council? Yes. Mr. Attorney, would you please read the rules?
Sure.
Please come on up.
Anyone wanting to address the council this evening here on a non-agenda item has a few rules to apply with. You can only be recognized up at the microphone this evening. You can't have more than 5 minutes to speak. You have to address the council only upon items that are within their authority legislatively or quasi-judicially. Don't use any vulgar or obscene language or use the floor to personally attack folks or individual council members or others. Direct all your comments to the entire council during this meeting. Please, you can't be recognized more than 2 times in a 30-day time period, but I believe you all are okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Council. My name is Jeff Meldal. I live in San Elmo. Sorry for the earlier, maybe insincere opposition to the specific instance we were discussing. We had prepared to oppose one that was in our neighborhood, but the applicant was not present. We didn't want to miss our chance to speak. As we discussed a couple weeks ago, the situation with short-term vacation rentals, we had a chance to speak with several council people after the meeting and talked about the need to reassess the rules. Tonight, or rather in researching this issue, one of the specific issues that's come up is that it's very difficult to tell what the nature of the application precisely is. For instance, I know there was one tonight and one several weeks ago where it was actually closer to an owner-occupied situation than a non-owner occupied. And when we are researching our feelings about these vacation rentals coming to our neighborhoods, a more nuanced sort of categorization seems like it'll be an important element there, because it's very hard to tell, is this just my neighbor who owns one house and maybe spends part of the time part of the year out of town trying to make an extra buck, in which case that's a lot less of a concerning detriment to the neighborhood than a large conglomerate or rental agency that owns 10, 20, 30 properties. That latter, we're obviously very opposed to on the grounds of, detriment to the community, loss of actual neighbors, and obviously the instances of negative experiences. So I think when we're dealing with this, a separate category for accessory dwelling units, maybe a separate category for second and third applications by the same applicant, or, people are very adept at finding ways around that, but some way of limiting the ability of a single corporation or entity to hold numerous short-term vacation rentals. That's my bit, and I'll turn it over to Kathleen.
Thank you again for letting us address you. As I mentioned before, there are a lot of residents in St. Elmo, but I think across the city, who are concerned about the proliferation of short-term vacation rentals. To Jeff's point, I think that there are things that the city could do to clarify the application process. But also, I think that as a city, we need to really think about what is the experience of other cities, New Orleans, Charleston, Seattle, other cities that are closer to our size, even Nashville, have all placed limits at this point on short-term vacation rentals. A lot of those have gone toward the route of not allowing any further non-owner occupied for the reasons that we're talking about. It limits the housing stock. So one of the things that we're concerned about is a lack of housing and affordable housing. I know that's something that's very important to you all and the city in general. And then what Jeff said is, loss of community fabric. We want to make sure that we're still living in neighborhoods full of residents and not have the density of short-term vacation rentals that is concerning. For me personally, there are 3 on my street already that I can see. There's another one that is under application that you all currently have with the Land Development Office. As far as I know, there are no limitations to how many can happen within a certain area. And it concerns me, somebody who's living on a street that already, out of 10 houses, there's 3 that are already short-term vacation rentals. It's starting to feel like less of a neighborhood. So we know from the example of other cities that it has already had detrimental effects. I think that Chattanooga could, we still have time to put measures in place to prevent those things from happening rather than having to come back in at the other end and, solve problems that we unintentionally created. I know that the city attorney is looking into this in terms of what the state law allows or disallows us to do. I hope that we will have the opportunity to hear what is determined, and that there will be an opportunity for citizens to help fashion whatever plans get made in the future for, something that works for everyone.
Thank you. All right, I have no lights. Is there anybody else who would like to address the council this evening? Oh, no, I don't know about that. Before you speak, sir, I would like to let you know that I took the opportunity to welcome you and congratulate you, and thus you not being here informed the whole world that you were in the restroom. So, knowing that, feel free to make any kind of comments you'd like to make, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, thank you. I appreciate that, brother. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, those of you in the audience, for those who may not be aware, I'm State Representative Yusuf Hakeem.
Amen.
And now you may wonder, why would I want to say that? It's because I'm a little old country boy from the south side of town, and I'm getting used to the role of being able to do something at another level for our community. And when you hear that somebody is representing Yusuf Hakeem, you take that with a grain of salt. I will represent myself. If you have a question of me, please feel free to do so. And you know, I've worked with all of you over the years. If you have individual items that you might want me to look at or have concern about, you know, I'm more than willing to do so. But the fact is, if we're going to move legislation at the state level on behalf of the city of Chattanooga, I would probably need this to be done through the chairman, as far as the council is concerned, and with the mayor, so that we can be on one accord as we strive to move forward with legislation. As I said, I have been there with you. I will be there for you, and I believe we will be working together. And I guess another reason I wanted to be here this evening, all of you on the council I may not have part of your district, but if you would allow me, I'm going to claim all of you and all of your districts. That's why I say if you have an interest and concern that I might be able to look at the state level, I'm more than willing to do so. Quite frankly, it feels a little brighter in this room this evening. I don't know if it's the room or if it's me, but I'm glad to be before you. I want to conserve this city, this community at the state level in a way that you find acceptable. And that might mean that some people will agree with items that I put forward, and they may not agree. But it's one that Yusuf Hakeem is going to feel comfortable in putting forward on your behalf. I'll just say I love you. And Mr. Attorney, I want to congratulate you, sir, on your promotion. And I don't know, some of you may be in the mindset of want to ask me a question or two. If that is you so inclined, I'll be willing to do so, to listen.
No, I don't see any questions. But, gosh, you almost got away. Hang on.
Okay.
Councilman Gilbert.
I just want to say congratulations, Representative, for representing us in the 20th District. I know you're going to do a great job.
Yes, sir.
I think that this is the first time I ever heard of someone on your caliber to come to us to say, what do we need? And
Yes,
we
sir.
appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
And I don't want you to think I'm trying to be outside of my colleagues in our local delegation, but I do feel that I can say I have a relationship with you that maybe some of them don't, but at the same time, you know, we will be coming to you as the state delegation. But as I said, you will be able to contact me at your pleasure, at your will, individually, if that's so needed.
Councilwoman Kinrod.
Thank you, Chair. It's good to see you.
Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations again for I don't know how many times I've said it,
Okay.
but I think I need to say this for the record in front of the camera because a lot of people don't even realize we work past our differences and we began to establish another relationship to where we can work together to make sure that all of Chattanooga is thriving and moving forward. So you most definitely have my support. You know I will be giving you a call for a lot of stuff on the state level. And I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason. And we needed to make sure that we elevated someone to the next level who's going to stand bold and firm for the issues of our community to make sure that our needs are taken care of as well. So thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am. And I will say that maybe my coming to you this evening is part of a healing process, not only for me, but maybe some of us, those of you on the council also, that it's not about us as individuals, but how we serve our community. I think that's how we're going to be judged.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Henderson.
Mr. Representative, I just want to know if you're still going to answer my phone calls when I call.
Do you ever?
If I happen to see that phone number, I can't say that, but if I
You still got
just
caller
pick up the
ID?
phone,
Okay.
I will.
Congratulations.
Thank you, my friend.
Councilman Byrd.
Hey, Mr. Representative, Brother Yusuf Hakeem, I'm just so proud of you. And I'm liking the fact that you said that because a lot of times people control our narrative and they plant seeds and a lot of times they want to conquer and divide and they don't understand that maybe we're not together every day, but we're connected in a way that people don't know. I definitely know your family, your beautiful daughter, and have worked with her. And it's just a blessing to know that I do have a connection and I do know you and I respect you to the utmost. And I'm just happy to know that you're up there, and I know you're going to do a great job. So thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Representative, when
Yes,
I
sir.
first declared my candidacy, I came to some of your campaign rallies.
Yes, sir.
And you showed me not only friendship and grace and love, but you showed me respect.
Yes, sir.
And now that I'm following in your shoes as planning and zoning chairman, which are pretty big shoes, sir.
Yes.
I just hope that that warm welcome and love that you showed me, that you are shown in Nashville.
Yes, sir.
Because they're getting a great representative.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you, council. Representative Hakeem.
Yes, sir.
On behalf of the entire city, congratulations, and we definitely look forward to working together.
All right. Thank you all for allowing me to be with you. Okay.
Is there anybody else who would like to address the council this evening?
I move we adjourn.
We are adjourned.
I don't know what happened on that one. I'm gonna find out.